Hello and welcome to Stephen University. Welcome to, of course, the 1st of January. Happy New Year and all that jazz.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, and the first episode of a brand new bomb, Stephen Bomb 4, Stephen's birthday week, starts with the night of his birthday. With the episode...
Birthday week.
This episode is called
Celebrating
The Answer.
Stephen's birthday on the birth of a new year.
Yeah, there you go. Timing.
Can't believe we're here already. 2016 was so shit. Just the idea of 2017 being nearly done. And not being a shit, but just being a whole lot scarier.
Yeah, so much scarier. So much.
We say that recording it in October, so if shit's gone down in November and December, which no doubt it will have,
for all we know, our country doesn't even exist anymore. Like, legitimately, like, it is possible that England has just been wiped out. Like, I mean, I don't want to start on a post-apocalyptic note, but for all we know, like, it's not out of the realms of possibility, is it?
Yeah, it's very possible.
Anywho. And it'll be that stupid orange orangutan that'll have set it off, I guarantee you. We'll be
it's not. Look, dude. We've only got, like, these podcasts are 20 minutes. We haven't got time for an 11-minute rant about Trump from yourself.
Yeah, if you want to hear more on that, just listen to Nothing But Static. I seem to get angry about it at least once a week. Anyway, right. Podcast time. Let's do it. So this one's The Answer, which is... In fact, no, I'm not going to say... I won't say anything first. I'll just let you explain what it's about.
Wait, what's it called?
The Answer?
Oh, shit.
Don't
I'm
tell
joking.
me.
I'm joking.
I thought you'd watched the wrong one. I was going to have a cry.
So the answer is a flashback episode. We get Garnet waking Stephen up on his birthday night, not explaining why Stephen's sleeping in a car, but anyway.
It's because they're at the barn still.
Yeah, but none of the rest of them are there. So they've all fucking taken themselves to bed.
Well, yeah, but gems don't sleep, do they?
Yeah, but there's no one else about. Like, I just think tuck him away in bed. But anyway, that's not what we're here to discuss.
Is there a bed at the barn? I don't think there is a bed at the barn. They're not home, are they? They're out of the barn where they've been building their gem drill thing.
Yeah, but home's not far away, is it?
I don't know. They make it seem like it's a little bit of a trip. It seems like they've been staying there.
Well, at least give him, like, a mattress or something. I just think he's
he is a human child with human child needs. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
One of which would be a bed. Yeah, no, it's fair.
Yeah. So anyway, so she says that for his birthday present, cheap, she's gonna tell him a story. Yeah, because it doesn't cost anything, Garnet. Jesus, put your hand in your pocket. He probably wants a PlayStation or something, you know. So anyway, so she tells him this story. It's a story of how her and Ruby met. So we find out that Ruby was one of Ruby. Appropriate. There was 3 of them, and they were sent with Sapphire to protect her on Earth as she led a battle that ended the rebellion. And it means that Sapphire is seeing that her and 2 of the rubies are gonna die. She's cool with it. So she finishes her chat with Blue Diamond. Blue Diamond doesn't give a shit. Blue Diamond's just like, cool, great, war's gonna be over. Doesn't, mourn her or anything. But
yeah, thanks for the info. Yeah. Carry on.
So Sapphire and Ruby go down to Earth. They start having the battle. Then it's like, and the Rose and Pearl appear, and they're like, "We are the crystal gems." Less effective when there's 2 of them, but it's still cool. So they get into the battle, and Sapphire is about to die, and Ruby, who's a bit rebellious, like she accidentally punches in front of her and stuff like that. She's like, no, and she jumps in front of her, and they fuse. And we learn that this is one of the first times ever, it seems, that two different gems have fused. Mm-hmm. The rubies are all there ready to fuse, but it seems like there's never been a cross fusion. And everyone's like, "What the fuck? What?" and gets angry about it. And
I love that impression. That's exactly what happened. It was like, "What the fuck?" Like everyone was like surfer dudes, like, "Oh, dude, what you doing? What the fuck?"
What, man? So they go they run away, and they have a little campfire chat, and Sapphire can no longer see properly, and they have this really sweet exchange, and they're just kind of tiptoeing around and being like, should we fuse again? And they sing a little song, which is cool, about being something new. And then they fuse again, and they're much happier, and they're Garnet, and it's awesome. And then they run across Rose and Pearl again, and Pearl and Rose are just like, you look awesome, like this is great. And they're like, you sure you're not against us? And they're like, no, of course not. And they all forget about the fact that they were attacking each other. And they it's the beginning of them, Garnet joining and then moving forward. And then we cut back to Stephen, and Stephen, they had this discussion on what the answer was, what did they need to do and stuff. And Stephen's like, what was the answer? And Garnet's like, love. And then the credits roll up, and it's like written by J.K. Rowling, because she fucking loves that, love being the answer. And then the episode ends.
A succinct interpretation. I will say that the answer is an interesting. That whole concept is really interesting because obviously,
yeah, I didn't explain that bit well.
Well, I see. I disagree because basically they have 100 questions. They're like, is this acceptable? Why do we want to do this? We don't understand. Like, they have a million questions, and the answer is why. The answer is not. It's not worth thinking about all the details because the answer of why this is happening and why you want this to happen is because you love each other. That's the answer, and it's one of. I'll be honest with you. This is probably one of my top couple episodes. This is like one of my absolute favorites. I love absolutely everything about this piece. It's almost perfect. And it's obviously a very clear analogy, as well for situations that certain people aren't accepted within our society as well. This idea that sort of homeworld gem society would reject a fusion of two gems that are different, like that's socially unacceptable or whatever. I think the analogy paints itself. I don't need to spell it out, but I think it's first of all an important message. But second of all, just a beautiful love story.
It's about climate change, isn't it?
Of course, yeah. It's about Trump. It's and it's a remarkable. And what I love most about it is that they both get. You sort of get this episode explains what they both get out of the relationship. Sapphire lived a very straightforward, predictable life that she knew where it was going at all times. There was no chaos to it. It's not like a human life what she was having, because we have these weird, wonderful lives where nothing can be predicted. You'll find yourself doing something amazing one day that you didn't expect, or life can take you in weird places sometimes. You can meet someone incredible, and it's all nothing's planned out ahead of time. And that's kind of amazing, but obviously, if you're a Sapphire and you literally see your entire life from beginning to middle, from beginning, middle, end, from the off, then suddenly this other force enters your life that's so unpredictable that it actually completely bamboozles your ability to accurately predict where your life's going. And that's. That the impulsive nature of Ruby actually completely throws off her future vision, and that's incredible. So that's that's one of the things that Sapphire gets out of it, is having a more sort of interesting and almost human life in that sense. And then Ruby obviously has this thing of Ruby's fused before because there are tons of rubies. But when they fuse, they're just a big version of what they are, because they're very, not homogenized, that's probably the wrong word, but they're all the same. So when they fuse, they just literally make a big ruby. So what Ruby gets out of this fusion is to literally be able to be someone different, feel something different, and get a glimpse of that future vision. And it's all really very nicely laid out, and you sort of understand what they both get out of the relationship early on. And they do a really good job in a very short time of convincing you these two are genuinely and truly in love. And again, in 11 minutes, with the song and the setup and all the gem mythology stuff. And Blue Diamond, for example, is a pretty big reveal. We've known about Yellow Diamond. Blue Diamond is a bit of a surprise. Seeing Blue Diamond has her own pearl a blue pearl was an interesting thought as well, an interesting notion. Seeing the multiple rubies, and also realizing as well that sapphire. The reason sapphire doesn't know what fusion is like is because sapphire is such a rare gem. Evidently, there are obviously not many sapphires, but there are clearly tons of rubies. And all these glimpses into homeworld culture and stuff, they're all incredible. The art style is beautiful. This really interesting way they've decided not to show. They've got vague, shadowy versions of certain gems, and I think that's because Stephen's imagining the story, so he can picture what Rose looks like, he can picture what Garnet looks like, he can picture what Ruby and Sapphire look like, but all these homeworld gems that he doesn't know about because he hasn't seen or met yet, they've all got very vague designs, these sort of like almost silhouettes, and that's kind of awesome too. So yeah, genuinely one of the best episodes of the show in my opinion. But enough of me rambling. Chris, what did you think?
No, I thought it was fantastic. I think it starts and you realise it's going to be a Ruby and Sapphire flashback, and one so important is how they met, and you're automatically excited and a bit enthralled by that. I think the song is beautiful. I think the song is really where they do their convincing you they're in love. I think it was an interesting choice to, other than the moment where she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." At the beginning, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry, I've seen it." We don't necessarily see any real bonding beyond the fusion, and I think you go, well, that's just their love was so meant to be that it was always there the minute they met, kind of thing, and that's how they were able to so easily fuse and kind of that stuff. Or maybe you go a bit deeper and you go, well, that's her, we know she loves her because she's willing to protect her so much, and she's so startled and surprised by this protection that she embraces it, and then they fuse, and they fuse quickly as well. It's worth noting they sort of come together and not soon after come apart. I just think that's an interesting choice given what we know about it needing to be a deep connection and needing work to fuse. You could argue that to make them fuse that quickly is a bit, love at first sight kind of thing. But then in the song and in the campfire montage, you really do then believe their love, and that really kind of comes through. And it's just such a sweet, like, romantic scene where they want to talk about it, but they're not sure they can talk about it, and they're on the verge of talking about it. And this sort of like, essentially, it's a it's essentially a scene where like a couple have just kissed or made love or something, and they're going, should we do it again? Do you want to do it again? Like, it's just a really sweet notion, or at least a sweet parallel to that. You can take it. I think the beauty of this is it's open to interpretation, so you can take it. You want to view it as kissing. You want to view it as more. If you want to just view it as a symbol, you can. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think in terms of all the mythology stuff we get, which, as you said, is a lot. We find out there's tons of rubies. We find out that we sort of had hints that Pearl and Rose came first, but we get that confirmed, and we find out how Garnet joins of all of them. I think the thing that made me most like, oh, is the fact that, like I say, this notion that fusions between the gems wasn't as common, like fusions across gems, and it just adds a whole other layer to that. And you then kind of go, actually, that makes sense, because we've only actually seen our guys do it, and maybe for them, they got used to Garnet, they got more used to that notion. They didn't really ever have a problem anyway. Maybe at this point, Pearl and Rose had already fused or something. And, maybe on Homeworld there is, still that stigma. Even though we've seen Homeworld gems do it, actually that was Lapis doing it as a desperate thing to complete that battle. And the other reason, I can't remember her name. What was the other one? Jasper. The reason Jasper wanted to do it was to win a battle. It's and even that is interesting. Like,
but it's been kept consistent because Jasper was clearly disgusted by Garnet and even Peridot. Peridot has recently shown some sort of like, well, could you unfuse for me? I'm uncomfortable with that. Which is like,
but they've shown a willingness. They've shown a willingness to do it, and how interesting is that notion that, like, these rebels and these people that they're against, they were the first to do it, or one of them was the first to do it, and it got this kind of reaction action, and then like the wars or the battles get so desperate that they're like, all right, well we're fused too, but we're only going to fuse as like a trick, as a way of forming a weapon. Like, just there's so much richness and depth to that.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because it's a bizarre sort of mythology building this episode, because we don't get a huge amount of like practical physical details about how Homeworld works, but we do get a huge glimpse into how they work from a societal level, culturally, and that's just as interesting, because I remember when I saw Jailbreak, I said to Nadia, oh, on Homeworld fusion is like really frowned upon. Like, they don't like fusion at all. They think fusion's like and that was what my theorizing was that fusion was the thing that was the problem. And what's great about it is that I just wasn't thinking about it laterally enough. But the show is obviously much cleverer than I am, and the reality of it being specifically inter-gem fusion being the problem, multi-gem fusion, two different kinds of gems, makes so much more sense and fits with and actually I think makes the analogy clearer.
Very much so.
I think it's an even clearer sort of position to take, and I think that. And I just think these are important messages that children should be receiving. I stand by that. We talked the other day on our other podcast, Nothing But Static, about Will and Grace coming back, and how one of the first times when I was younger that I saw a gay character prominently as a main character in a TV show was an early episode of Will and Grace when I was about sort of 9, maybe 8, and I was just I think it's important to do it casually, because that was my I just remember my reaction to it, because I just remember like one of the Will was just like, oh, trying to get a guy's number, and I was just like, oh, okay. And it's just I think when you're younger, the way you pass it is just, well, that's cool and fine, like no problem, like the show isn't making a fuss or a big deal of it, the show is normalizing it, therefore my child brain is taking that in as there's no problem with that. Why would that be a weird thing? It's not a weird thing, it's absolutely normal and natural. And I think what's important about this is it's not just doing that, but it's then going further and showing the side of society that does seem to think there's something unnatural about either same-sex relationships or interracial relationships, whatever the stigma is. And there are plenty of people out there with some absolutely batshit crazy fucking prejudices, but
yeah, and I think too many people go and I really don't want to fall down a political kind of well and a Trump well and stuff, but I think recent events have shown us that it's, yes, shows like Will and Grace exist, and yes, I've got gay friends, and yes, they can walk down the street, flamboyantly dressed, holding hands with another guy, and yes, it's acceptable for them to do that, but you can't go, oh, there's no reason for these lessons to be taught, because
Absolutely.
even though society as a whole has accepted it, not necessarily every individual has, and you don't know that the child watching this it isn't being raised by two people that as ad hoc as casually referring to someone who's homosexual with a slur. Like, it could be as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't realise that because they didn't grow up in this time, and because I'm not attacking them. I think a lot of it is nature versus nurture in the environment they grew up in. But maybe that them saying those things and giving like alternative names to people and that kind of thing, maybe just that simple thing, even if they're not outright ranting against homosexuality, maybe something as simple as that is enough to make that child feel like there's something odd about this, and maybe this show will go against that. Well, I think it's about the individuals as much as it is society as a whole.
Well, I think that's the value of this lesson as well, is that it's like, you look at what Ruby and Sapphire have, and the show paints it very clearly as something wonderful, something amazing for them, and they're both getting a lot out of it. They're both clearly happy, and I think it's important that what they're sort of saying here is like, what I take away from it, and I guess maybe that's just because, straight guy with straight perspective, but it's very possible. But what I'm taking out of it is like, it's why would you judge someone else for doing something that makes them happy? So they very much depict the homeworld gems as being, judgmental of their fusion. And what's lovely is they show the other side of that, the kind side of that, what rose quartz reacts, to that with, which is the opposite, which is that it's an incredible thing, and she sees it for what it is. And I think that's the crux of the lesson, I think.
But again, so layered, and like you say, it's because of our attitudes, it's easy to see that. But I think that what's heartbreaking is that there might be some kids watching this, going through their own questions that only focus on Homeworld, that only focus on, because we're going, like you say, like not having dealt with that on a personal level as much as we might have friends that have. We're going, oh yeah, but look at the end and look at the answer and how great it is. And actually it's more, well, no, but also look at the fact that she's no longer with her homeworld. She's teaming up now with people she was against, and
she's been ostracized.
She still has all those questions, and it takes literally thousands of years for her to be like, okay, I know who I am now. And it's those things that people will pick up on, and that again is the power of this episode and this storyline, because you're able to go, yeah, she absolutely felt like that at one time, and look at the growth and time, and look at what that's done for her, and that's produced Garnet, and hopefully maybe it will get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and then because that's what's great about it is as well, they've sort of told the story in reverse, because in the episode where we reveal Garnet's fusion, we get this ballad of love and power, and I'm stronger than you, and I'm better than all of this, and I'm above the pettiness you're talking about, and then you go back and you show that she didn't start that way, and it's important, I think, to see that journey. But I think it's clever that they did it in reverse, because you see the end result and then you see how they got there, and you realize that it's like, it's okay to have those questions, and it's okay to have those doubts, as long as you find ultimately you'll find yourself is part of the message. And I think again there's nothing, I don't think there's anything more beautiful and powerful than that. So the episode is staggeringly layered for 11 minutes of children's
absolutely.
television.
Look how deep that discussion's gone. It's because of how layered it is. I would love to see an episode like set shortly after this in the past. Like, I'd love to see that dynamic as they get used to being a team, and Garnet gets used to her power, and I just would love to see them dealing with the fact that they are on two different sides of a war, and now they're on the same side. And like Garnet getting, because you believe that Garnet, you fully believe by the end of the episode that Garnet is Garnet, and invested in being Garnet, and actually invested in these people as well. But I wanna see her get invested in the Earth. I want to see her learn to love. I don't want it to just be, well, this is the place where I'm accepted and okay. This is the place where I can be me. And it could just be that, but I'd also quite like to see, a bit more of that.
Because that you were directly quoting, I think, from the full extended version of the song, weren't you? Then, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, was I? No, not deliberately. But...
yeah, because they all sing about why they're on Earth and what they're fighting for. And Garnet's one is, "I will fight for this place where I'm free to live together and exist as me."
Right. Yeah. No, of course. Yeah. So maybe they don't. Maybe it is that, but just some early Garnet days in the rebellion. I'd like to see.
Absolutely.
And I'd like it to, because I love the idea that it's and obviously, by the way, Harry Potter is literary genius. I was joking when I said about J.K. and the answer being love. The thing I love about Harry Potter is that you don't. What are you doing, Dan? It sounds like a dog is eating you.
You know what? I tell you what. I know. I've realised I'm wearing a hoodie, and I think the hood is brushing up against the microphone. Let me readjust.
Right.
I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't.
Cool. I tried to get by, and I was just like, I can't do it anymore.
Was it doing it for ages?
Yeah, it's fine.
Let me readjust the hood. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, sorry.
I love them. I want them to Harry Potter it. Obviously Fantastic Beasts is set years and years before. But I love that when Harry Potter first started, a lot of people are like, "Oh, we're gonna get like a prequel with like James and Lily and the gang." And then by the end of it, you're like, "Oh, we don't need that because we've got all the information. We've seen all the moments we want to see." And I want this to be like that. I just want to get all these stories in flashbacks in the context of the show and stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's again stunning, and I think that'd be really. I agree that I would want from this perspective. I would definitely want to see more of that sort of time period. I mean, it's so shrouded in mystery. Anyway, just from the whole, even if from a character perspective, you can say, well, we roughly know the beats now. We know why Garnet chose to go with them. We can assume her journey from A to B anyway. So I'm not saying that is the valid argument, but I'm saying you could say that. You could sort of say, we know roughly where she must have gone from there to get to where she is today. But there's so much from that time frame anyway that we need that you'd want filling in at this point. This gem war is fascinating for so many reasons. And something occurred to me the other day actually that I've never thought about before. So Rose is clearly a warrior type gem. We've established that the quartz sort of family of gems all seem to be soldiers basically. Rose being some sort of high end soldier, clearly because she seems to have been like a general or something based on how it was depicted. Leading armies and stuff. If they were just on Earth colonizing it, why was Rose ever there? Were they battling with humans? Were they? Why were they? Why if Rose is a warrior class gem, and why did they bring her there to discover how great the Earth was to then become a rebel? Like, what was she on Earth for originally? Because if you're just colonizing Earth and there's nothing's fighting back, you wouldn't need warrior gems.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. Never occurred to me until literally like the other day when we were talking about it. Because just like an episode or two ago, we were talking about. I think it was the episode. I think it was actually the last week's episode. It was Too Far, wasn't it? When Amethyst when we found out a bit more about the sort of gemology of it all. Talked about like the quartz sect and how they seem to be soldier based and warrior based. So yeah, I don't know. I found that interesting. It had occurred to me.
Yeah, that is cool. Maybe she saw it from Homeworld and was like, "What are you doing?" and went down to investigate. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's something I would like some answers for. But anyway, so this is an interesting episode for a few reasons. First of all, Garnet never wears a visor the entire episode, which is unusual for her. Stephen turns 14 this episode.
Cool.
Not that relevant, not like a huge thing, but just like a little note. Several silhouettes of gems in the flashback. Have appearances similar to other characters in the show. For example, there's a silhouette that bears a striking resemblance to Lapis Lazuli, and she's a part of Blue Diamond's entourage. However, obviously it's not confirmed whether it is her or another version of her or something like that. But there are a few gems that have very similar designs of those silhouette ones to existing gems. Garnet's first generation outfit, where all the colours are merged, is actually very similar to the original concept art for Stevonnie. So they obviously borrowed from some original concept art. I thought that was pretty cool. What else have we got? I'm just looking through some of the other details we might have missed. Oh yeah, I love that. Due to Pearl's abnormal behaviour, she seems to have been referred to as Rose's terrifying renegade Pearl. I love that idea so much because obviously
I thought that was great.
You look at Blue Diamond's Pearl, who is so subservient and so like a servant basically. When you see Rose Quartz fighting alongside her Pearl, that's obviously not necessarily her Pearl. We don't really know at this point what Pearl's story is at all. To be honest, that's another thing. Actually, I'd be more interested now in going even further back. We've got a relatively good idea of how Amethyst came to join them. We've got a reasonable idea now of how Garnet came to join the group. But finding out how both Rose and Pearl originally seceded from the rest of the gems is going to be is another big gap, obviously, in the story. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Before you'd even get to a second Garnet episode, you'd probably want to consider doing the Pearl side of this story, the Pearl of it all. But yeah, this idea that she's like this, like she's like revered because she's this crazy renegade Pearl that didn't like sit back and be a servant. Like she took matters into her own hands and stuff, and was inspired enough by Rose to like do that. It's no wonder their relationship is so strong, and that Pearl feels so strongly about Rose because she sort of, it seems like she gave her freedom, which is quite a remarkable thing to do for a person.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good gift.
Yeah, yeah. Let's have a look. For some reason, both this episode and a future episode that we've not seen yet called Hit the Diamond, but we'll come to that when we come to it, were banned in Russia and Bulgaria. I can only assume bigotry is involved, which is a shame.
Yeah. That's. I feel like we've said it. We need. I just had that discussion before.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because we talked about how the UK they edit the that scene where Rose and Pearl dance,
fuse.
Yeah. So yeah, this is obviously the other cool thing about this episode is it's a reference to Jailbreak, because when he finds out she's a fusion, she's like, "We were going to tell you on your birthday." So I love that she still came to do something and tell him that story on his birthday, so the present still isn't completely lost.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice nod and very sweet. Yeah,
especially because he's like, "Oh, you're going to tell me that you're Ruby and Sapphire?" She's like, "No, you already know that, Stephen." It's like really adorably, like it's adorably stupid. What else? When they're dancing and the tune they're humming, that's a slow version of Stronger Than You.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that that like that whole little tune is like a slowed down version of Stronger Than You. The notes are the same, which is really nice. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. I'm just there for notes and stuff. 3 gems at 15 guys. No. That's not interesting. Not interesting. And no, that's it. So cool. I've not got any more notes.
Great episode.
Yeah, fantastic episode. How are you feeling about the bomb? I mean, it's such a bold opening a bomb.
So far, I'm feeling good about the bomb, Dan. They continue on this thread and link every episode back to his birthday. I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah. So because I just think that. Actually, no, I won't say that. I'll wait till we've seen the bomb to make that comment. But it's interesting because if the thread is simply that it's Stephen's birthday week, we can. There's a lot of scope to just tell any kind of different, interesting story, without a requirement for it being like connected to a single plot. So every episode can have its own individual plot, and as long as it's somehow tied.
Just in the background, it's still taking place on Stephen's birthday. So
on or around, definitely. I mean, I love the idea that this is literally the start of Stephen's birthday. Like it hit midnight and this episode starts.
Yeah, my assumption would be the bomb takes us through the day.
Yes, it's a reasonable assumption. Absolutely. Cool. All right, well, we'll leave it there then. We'll obviously speak to you guys next week. Sorry, this chat went on arguably too long, but some of you will be happy with that. And it was all killer, no filler this week, Chris, wasn't it?
Yeah. We were on fire, Dan.
We are rocking it. I was kind of... And actually, one thing I want to quickly add is we recently released... From where we're recording this, we recently released Rose's Scabbard, and people were a little bit disappointed because that's like one of the most popular episodes, and we liked it but didn't love it. Like, we were just like... we pointed out a few flaws. I think people were a little bit disappointed. I think they really thought we were going to gush. We didn't, and there was no hate at all. We both really enjoyed that episode and loved that episode, but it wasn't quite as passionate, I suppose, as other people feel about it. And I think I sensed some mild disappointment. So I'm hoping that
we really loved the test. What do people want?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just not going to hit us as hard. And I think particularly with Rose's Scabbard, and I think I pointed this out in some of the comments to people. For me as well, like. The exploring the Rose and Pearl relationship is done better later on, So that episode, to me, having seen the whole run, suffers for me knowing that that's the first episode that hinted at that story and where it was going. But then they explore it properly later, and I prefer when they explore it to actually that first hint, personally. But to which someone very correctly replied, "Yeah, that's fine. That's your excuse. What's Chris's?"
Wow.
Not in those exact words. That's no. I just, which is a fair point. That is a very fair point, actually. Because if my reasoning is I know they do it better later, what was your reasoning? It's fair.
Just had faith. Just had faith they'd do it better later.
Yeah, there you go. Cool, so that's everything for this week. That's it for this week for this episode. We will see you tomorrow for an episode titled Stephen's Birthday.
See you then.
What he said. Hello, Dan here, and I'm joined, of course, by
Chris. I didn't know what you were going to do.
No, I didn't know what I was going to do either. Great. I like the idea that you're going to become the Matt Damon now. You're like, Chris! I thought this was really good. Chris! Anyway, this sort of nonsense, this sort of witty banter, if you're enjoying this, guess what? Now you can give us money.
It's true. You can.
We have a Patreon page. A Patreon page that I am going to pledge right now. Bold, Chris. You ready for this? I'm going to pledge, and if I have to make it just myself, that's fine. But next year, for 2018, there will be one piece of original content on the Patreon page per month.
Boom. Per month. Oh, I thought you were just meaning for the whole year, and I was thinking that was ambitious. Per month.
It might only be a 5-minute thing. It might, I'm not saying that anything will be substantial.
Get better at it,
but I look, enough people are doing it that I feel we owe them that. So from 2018 on, there's going to be a January piece of content, February onwards, through all the months. So join us now, support now, get on the train before it blows up. You want to be an early adopter of these things, don't you? That's what they say.
Yeah, you would have be able to tell your friends, I was a patron of Nothing But Static early, and your friends will go, what's Nothing But Static?
I was on the ground floor of that success story. But, feel free. It's one of those things where we don't mind if you don't, but it's nice if you do, because it helps us cover the server bills. And that's pretty much it.
It's a massive help. If there is an amount you would have paid to have this, or if there is, an amount you wouldn't notice going missing, it would be amazing, and we would be so grateful. And there will be stuff going on it. As Dan said, it's not 100% clear what it is yet, but you will be getting some exclusives, and you will genuinely be helping us. It makes a huge difference.
At the moment we operate at a loss. It'd be nice to operate evenly. We don't want to make money off the podcast, but we'd like to not be losing money doing it.
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's everything. So I don't know if I'm putting this at the end or the beginning of a podcast, but either I hope you enjoyed the podcast you just heard, or enjoy the podcast.
I think put it at the beginning, because otherwise, would they pledge after listening to that shit? Sorry, and thank you.